Schools enforcing gender norms. This issue is about how schools are still enforcing gender norms on students. Gender is a construct that has shifted over time. According to Wikipedia's definition of gender, gender includes the social, psychological, cultural, and behavioral aspects of being a man, woman, or other gender identity. Depending on the context, this may include sex-based social structures and gender expression. Most cultures use gender binary, in which gender is divided into two categories, and people are considered part of one or the other. Those who are on the outside, these groups may fall under the umbrella term non-binary. Some societies have specific genders besides man and woman, such as Jiharis of South Asia. These are often referred to as third genders. Most scholars agree that gender is a central characteristic for social organization. Gender can be thought of as biopsychosocial, as it includes social, psychological, biological, cultural, and behavioral aspects. Teachers and family influence children in their gender norms. Because of this, it can cause gender gap in education. As a woman who's always struggled with math, I felt connected to this issue. When I would sit with my mom to do math homework, she would just tell me, "Some girls aren't made for math." The fact this stereotype continues to be passed down like it's nothing to bat an eye at is not safe. Girls and boys need to be ensured that no matter what field they choose, they have the academic self-concept to achieve their goals. When I go to classes for education, teachers always say how valued the male teachers are. Students need to see more gender concepts outside their norms. This will help them with their academic self-concepts. Children are exposed to stereotypes from an early age. These implicit biases are socially constructed artifacts that go unnoticed. The automatic and unconscious bias is what teachers and family do early in life. We don't see this happening. It is unconscious behavior we all do. We assume girls get along better with girls and boys get along better with boys. The second stereotype is explicit. We control this and are conscious. We give girls pink and let girls play with dolls. We give boy blue and play with trucks when we dress them in their colors assigned according to gender. Boys and girls are molded by these desirable behaviors and shape their early cognition. This continues the stereotypes. We see how norms continue to be passed down and traditionalized. The most influenced gender norm we hear in school is girls are better at ELA and boys are better at math. In a test done by Greenwald and Associates, boys associated math with own gender significantly more than girls. Similarly, on a self-report, boys reported more likely to pick the same gender as liking to do math more than girls in a study. From this, we can determine the stereotypes. From an early age, children find out their norm. They believe their self-worth from a stereotype passed down. These norms are supported by an early exposure in stereotypes. Whether they may be unconscious or unconscious, we need to change how we influence these gender norms. Boys and girls have been impacted by the gender gap. These inequalities lead to critical issues in education and later on when choosing a career. From an early age, men remember having the privilege to come and go as they please. They are able to pursue their education and interests without issue. Girls find restrictions in mobility and education. Girls are instilled to be silent, and their desirable values are to be modest in fashion. This can be risky for girls. Early marriage, teen pregnancy, leaving school early, sexually transmitted infection, and exposure to violence. Boys are at risk too from these norms schools enforce. Boys are at risk for substance abuse, suicide, and shorter life expectancy. This is especially true if they try to deviate from the masculine norms. Men and women are expected to act a certain way in society. In school, these gender norms are socially accepted and enforced. Education can play a key role in changing how children grow and fit in societal gender norms. American elementary school children often reflect on stereotypic patterns for academic self-concepts. Children think of themselves how others see them. They need to see models of their own gender or culture to reflect on their own self-worth. For math, girls typically rate their own ability lower than boys, but believe they do well in reading and spelling. Students have shown a reduced interest in fields. Women represent 52% of the college-educated workforce, but only 29% of the science and engineering workforce. Half of the women in STEM jobs have said they experienced discrimination in the workplace compared to 41% of non-STEM jobs. Over 70% of women in STEM regularly reported experiencing the following microaggressions and biases related to their competence and merit. They had their judgment questioned in the area of expertise, had to work harder than others to prove themselves, had to provide more experience of competence than their peers, have had others explain things to them in their area of expertise, have had been assumed to be more junior than they are, have had their accomplishments or ideas credited to someone else. Addressing this issue would take representation, modeling, and discussion. When representing boys and girls, we should find books, digital displays, and posters. They show both boys and girls capable of doing the same tasks. When creating representation or laying out materials, they should all be equal. In the play area, I can show a man feeding a baby. In the math area, I can show a girl solving a math problem. I want to show different representations of gender involved in a range of activities. Using role models, when I show a role model, students see how they can fill a role later on in life or in future careers. We as teachers can bring outside influences to speak. Having male teachers come in and assist the classroom, having a female doctor come in and teach a lesson in science. Students are impacted by mentors and counselors they can see themselves in. For discussions, we don't have to separate children by gender. Find out their interests and strengths. Let students discuss and have conversations based on what we believe is a commonality. Students may be natural to separate according to gender. This would be a time to adjust seating according to boy-girl order. Let students get to know each other. Some teachers are unwilling to see their bias. They believe they have moved past these issues and everyone is treated equally. Although the issue has declined over the past few decades, boys still verbally dominate the classroom. When working with a student like Jacques, he was raised to believe that school was not for him. In Jacques' case, for example, they actively encouraged his interest in his father's earth-moving business. He is free to stay home from school, camps, and the like in order to accompany his father's work. Having multiple literacies to encourage his language and modeling his culture in the classroom, we want to show students like Jacques that the working class are represented. Going outside the gender norms, we can encourage students like Jacques to help his mother's role as the homemaker, showing how women can be workers. They can be just as hardworking as men. Jacques' mother runs their home and is heavily involved in volunteer, church work, and other activities each day. When representing, modeling, and discussing, we want everyone to be part of this. Showing gender equality can be different in all classrooms. I want students to bring in artifacts from their home that show identity other than gender. Teachers and students work together to make the classroom a safe environment for everyone to learn and grow in.